Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'Hashem Yahushai, Ba'Hashem Racha Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is Job, New Moons, and Various Topics. And pretty much this is centered around a couple of things that one thing that I ran across. I was looking up some other stuff through the spirit. And the new moon issue, I was just going to deal with that, a little bit of that, because of the video that Elder Apostle Tar did, one of the last videos he did, where he spoke about it, dealing with Colossians 2 and 16. And I just wanted to say, just a couple of words, just going into a couple of precepts on the moon, itself, the new moons. And if we have enough time, there's one more point, on there I want to just touch on if we have enough time, depending on the spirit. So, what we're going to start off with is Job. Because there's this controversy that Job is an Edomite, which we know Job is not an Edomite. I mean, all one has to do just to prove that right off the cuff, would be just go to the book of Job itself. Go to the book of Job, the first chapter. And the first verse, it says, there was a man in the land of Uz whose name was Job. And that man was what? Perfect and upright, and one that feared the Most High and eschewed evil. These perfect, upright, fear the Most High, eschewed evil are not in Esau's vocabulary. All right? So he was not an Edomite. When we go to the book of Psalms, the 36th chapter, it says, verse 1, the transgression. What is a transgression? That is a going against the law, a breaking of the law. And the scriptures already say that Esau does not like instruction. So the Lord is asking them, the wicked, why they even taking these statutes into their, why are you even bothering to take the statutes of the Lord into their mouth, seeing they hate instruction. So it says, the transgression of the wicked saith within my heart that what? That there is no fear of the Most High before his eyes. You see, so there is no fear of the Most High inside of these Edomites. Not an ounce, not a nanometer or however you, measure that. All right. Psalms 10 and 4, the wicked through the pride of his countenance will not seek after the Most High. The Most High is not in all his thoughts. So that's how we know that Job himself is not an Edomite. And we also know that Cornelius himself is not an Edomite. These were righteous men, Israelites, righteous men. And to eschew evil means you're avoiding it completely. Matter of fact, let's just look at that word real quick. Eschewed or eschewed, however you pronounce it. The word there is sawar. To turn aside, depart, right? In other words, like the scriptures say, flee from sin as you fleeing from a serpent. How many people have seen a serpent, whether they know it's venomous or not, and run from it? If there's even a little garden snake in your midst, you're trying to get the hell away from that snake. So it says flee from sin, but these devils run to sin. To turn aside, which pretty much is the same. Depart from way, avoid. So he avoided evil like you avoid a plague. Now, when we go to Job chapter 42, verse 16 and 17, these are the last verses in the book of Job, which is 42 chapters long, right? And this is where part of the controversy comes in, because some books, like the Septuagint, have a longer verse or longer verses. Some of them just have annotations in the margin, or at the bottom, which was something that was added later. Now check this out. Job 42:16. After this, Job After this lived Job 140 years, and saw his sons, plural, and his sons' sons, even 4 generations. And he even had daughters. All right. It says, let me see. The elder just put up James 5 and 10. Let me read that. Take my brethren, the prophets who have spoken in the name of the Lord, for an example of suffering, affliction, and patience. That's right. Behold, we count them happy which endure. You have heard of the patience of Job, right, and have seen the end of the Lord, that the Lord is very pitiful and of tender mercies, right. And that's exactly this. That does prove that Job is an Israelite. Why? Because the Lord gave him blessings. When Antiochus Epiphanes repented to the Lord, what happened? He didn't receive no forgiveness. He was repenting. He said he's going to do this. He's going to praise the Lord. He's going to exalt Israel, this, that, the other. The Lord still smoked his ass. All right, matter of fact, bro, I got to give you, now that you're on here, I got to give you a wrencher. How do I do that? It's not allowing me to report pin. Yeah, it's not allowing me to I don't know how. You used to be able to just add it when you go to the all right, well, Lord's will, I can figure it out and give you a wrench, bro. So as you can see here, it says, so Job died being what? Old and full of days. And that's the end of the book of Job. Now, when you go to the Septuagint, this is the English version of the Septuagint, right? Job 42. You go down to the 17th verse, it says, and Job died an old man and full of days. And that's where it should end. 17. Now you got what? 17a and 17b and 17c and 17d and 17e, which are all additions later on. All right. This does not appear in the Hebrew text. When we go to the Hebrew text, right, let me see if I could pull one up. Just bear with me 1 second. Okay, let's just go here. This is in the Hebrew. Right, and then when you go there to the Septuagint, it says, and it is written that he will rise again with those whom the Lord raises up. This man is described in the Syriac book as living in the land of Ausis, on the borders of Idumea and Arabia, and his name was Jobab. There's no evidence of that in the scriptures, that his name was Jobab, so on and so forth. So pretty much they're saying he's an Edomite, right? They're saying he's an Edomite, which you could read more of this, this is nonsense. But when we go here, this is the whole Bible. I'm sorry, the whole Old Testament, right? I think it's just the Old Testament. Nope, it's the whole Bible in different translations and different languages. And we go to the book of, let's see if I can find Job. This is a little confusing, so just bear with me a little bit. Psalms, Haggai, Habakkuk, Nahum, Jonah, Hosea, Joshua, Genesis. Pretty sure I probably passed it a couple of times already. Psalms. Here we go. Job. Job 42. Right? We go, Job 42, we go down to the end. It has here the 17th verse. That's the Greek. Okay, so it's going into, yeah, this one goes into that bullshit of the A, B, C, D. But when we go to the actual, let's see if we can find the Torah. Torah online. And that's actually what I really wanted to do. Matter of fact, let me go back. Let's go to the Torah portion of it. Where the hell is it? Sixteenth verse, 17th verse. Right. You see how short the 17th verse is. This is the Paleo Hebrew. This is the Assyrian or the Aramaean. Right? Very short. Wayamath, Ayawab, Zakwan, Aishar, Aisharai, Yum. Should be Yawum days. Right? And that's it. And Job came to be an old man and full of days. That's it. Then the Greek, then they start adding all that other nonsense. But anyway, let's move on from there. So what I want to deal with is there's no evidence that Job was called Jobab. That's something that was added later. Right? So let's deal with that word Jobab. Because they're saying that he's an Edomite because his name before was Jobab, and he's taken an Arabian wife whose name was Enon. And he himself, the son of his father Zeri, one of the sons of Esau, and his mother Bozorah, so that he was the fifth from Abraham, and these were the kings who reigned in Edom. And first Balak, the son of Beor, and the name of this city was Dinaba. But after Balak, Jobab, who is called Job. And this is not in the scriptures. You have a lineage of Esau, and Jobab is in the lineage of Esau, but they're not called Job. All right? This is some straight fabrication of these devils. All right? So let's go to Genesis 36 and 31. And these are the kings that reigned in the land of Edom before there reigned any king over the children of Israel. And Bela, the son of Beor, reigned in Edom. Right? Now, Bela was what? The son of who? Beor. Wasn't Balaam also the son of Beor, if I'm not mistaken? And Balaam was a Midianite, right? Let's see. Let's read the judgment. Let me just type in Beor. All right. And Bela Beor, right, he sent messengers therefore unto Balaam, the son of Beor, to Pethor. So Balaam is a Midianite. His father's name was Beor. Esau, one of Esau's descendants, one of their father's name was Beor. Does that make Balaam an Edomite, or does that make the Edomites Midianites because they have the same name? You got to understand that these names were pretty much common names back then. And that's why you see a lot of people called by those same names. So it says, and Bela, the son of Beor, reigned in Edom, and the name of the city was Dinhaba. And Bela died, and what? Jobab, the son of Zerah of Basra, reigned in his stead. Where did it say? And Jobab, who was called Job, he was the son of Zerah and of Basra. No, that's a fabrication of these devils. All right? Now, let's look up this word Jobab. Who's bad? Let's look up this word Jobab. Or this name Jobab. The word for Jobab is Yahwabab, which goes back to the root word Yabab, which means cried. Down here it's saying Jobab means a desert. I'm not sure if that's exactly what it means. I would have to do more research on that. But when we go to Job, not Jobab, but Job, right? Where are we at? I just want to make sure. All right. When we go to Job, the name Job goes to the Hebrew word Ayawab, which goes to the root word ayab, which means enemy. According to this, it goes to the root word ayab, which means enemy. And then Job down here means hated. Like I said, I believe it means persecuted. Like hated in the sense of being so persecuted that you feel hated. And that's pretty much Job's argument. Now, when we go to Jobab or Jobab, it says the last in order of the sons of Joktan, a descendant of Shem. Wait a minute. So do you mean to tell me that one of the men in Esau's lineage who was called Jobab, you also had another individual that was named Jobab, but he wasn't from the lineage of Esau? No, it can't be. Come on. Right there. Jobab. This is Esau's lineage. We go to Genesis 10 and 21. Unto Shem also, the father of all the children of Eber, because Esau, they also came of the line of Shem. Right? So you have Shem, the children of Eber, the brother of Japheth the elder, even to them were children born. And Shem had what? 5 sons, Elam, Ashur, and Arphaxad, and Lud, and Aram. And they had sons, and they had sons and sons and sons. So when we jump down to Eber, which was the son, one of the sons of Arphaxad, Arphaxad, Salah, and then Salah begat Eber. And unto Eber were born 2 sons. The name of the one was Peleg, for in his days the earth was divided, and the name of the other was Joktan. And Joktan begat Almodad and Shelef and Hazarmaveth and Jirah, verse 29, and Ophir and Havilah and what? And Jobab. All these were the sons of Joktan. And this is way before Esau was even on the planet. So does that make these individuals, does that make this man of the line of Shem, does that make him an Edomite? And like I said before, there is no evidence that Job was called Jobab, except for in that so-called Septuagint, which is total nonsense. Now you have some points in there that you can bring out. That's cool. That might, reflect certain histories or whatever the case may be. For the most part, that book is not good. It's no bueno, to quote a brother. All right, no bueno. So Jobab. So we have a man in the lineage of Shem before Esau was even on a planet named Jobab. So is he an Edomite? I trow not. Going back to Jobab. Now we have one of the kings of Edom, which we saw here, Jobab, Genesis 36. Then we have what? The king of Madon, located in northern Canaan. And we know that the Canaanites are descendants of Ham, which even Esau, these devils know that Ham is the progenitor or the father of the dark races, meaning the people, the aborigines, for lack of better words, of so-called Africa, the land of Ham. And one of the kings who opposed Joshua during the conquest and who were routed at Meron. So when we go to Joshua, chapter 11, verse 1, and it came to pass when Jabin, king of Hazor, had heard those things that he sent to Jobab, king of Madon. So is this Jobab, who is obviously a Canaanite, is he an Edomite because he has the name Jobab? And once again, there is no proof that Job was called Jobab. That is a fabrication, a very bad one too. I can't even say a cunningly devised fable. It was a bad fabrication by Esau to try to make Job an Edomite. And he is not. So Jobab, king of Madon, and unto the king of Shimron, and to the king of Aksaph. So Jobab was a common name, peoples. All right, so this is a king, a Canaanite king, by the name of Jobab. Come on. Come on, stop it. Moving on. Head of a Benjamite house. What? You had a Benjamite by the name of Jobab? So even if Job's name was called Jobab, which is not, you had Israelites with the name Jobab. Could that be so? 1 Chronicles 8:1. Genealogy from Benjamin. This is Benjamin's genealogy. Now Benjamin begat Beli's firstborn, Ashbel the second, and Ahara the third. We scroll down to the 8th verse. And Shaharaim begat children in the country of Moab. You know, because you have a lot of Israelites scattered. All right? Scattered everywhere. So this man who was a Benjaminite had children in the land of Moab. And I perceive this is why certain individuals would teach before that Ruth was an Israelite and not a Moabite, but she was a Moabite. She wasn't an Israelite. It says, after he had sent them away, Hushim and Ba'arah were his wives. And he begat Hodesh his wife. And he begat of Hodesh his wife. Who? Jobab. Wait a minute. So you have an Israelite, a Benjaminite by the name of Jobab? Does that mean he's an Edomite? Because one of the kings of Edom was named Jobab? I trow not. Then we scroll down to, what was the other one? Verse 18. Now this is another group of Benjaminites. And of Hushim he begat Abitub and Elpaal. And we scroll to the 18th verse. And Ishmerai also, and Jezliah and Jobab. So wait a minute. There's another Benjaminite with the name Jobab? Is he an Edomite because his name is Jobab? The sons of Elpaal. We scroll down. We're going to scroll past the genealogy of King Saul, who was also a Benjaminite, all the way to the last verse, 40th verse. And the sons of Ulam were mighty men of valor, archers, and had many sons, and sons' sons, and 150. All these are of the sons of Benjamin. So you had two Benjaminites by the name of Jobab. Does that make them Edomites? Could they be honorary Edomites at least? No. They are Israelites that just happen to have the name Jobab. And once again, there is no evidence that Job himself had the name Jobab. His name was Job, which is a total different root word. It's Ayawab, totally different from Jobab. The word or the Hebrew word for Jobab is Yawabab. Two different words. Ayawab and Yawabab. It's just like trying to connect Adam and Edom. Adama and Adawam. Sounds similar, but no dice, no cigar. It only counts in horses. All right. Close, but no cigar. Ye did run well. None did hinder you. And even here, when you look at the Brown Driver Briggs lexicon, it breaks it down. Son of Joktan, going back to Shem. King of Edom, going back to Esau. King of Medan, going back to what? The Canaanites. And two Benjaminites. 1 Chronicles 8:9, 1 Chronicles 8:18. You had two of them. So you failed miserably, dog. All right, now that's all done and said. Let's move on to the new moon phase of the lesson. All right, so I just want to put up a new moon. But you know, when you see a new moon, the light is very dim. All right, as you can see here, new moon. Right, new moon pretty much is a dim moon. It's still light, but it's very dim. Because it's the moon, when it was created what? As a light. Let's prove that. Genesis 1:14. And the power said, let there be what? Lights in the firmament of heaven to divide the day from the night. So when they say a dark moon, it's not really a dark moon. It should be more like a dim moon. because the moon goes through phases. It's still a light, but the light is very dim when it comes to it being renewed again, because it's going through a process of renewal. All right. It says, and let them be for signs and what? For signs and seasons and for days and years. So they work in conjunction. And the day begins when? In the evening. And the evening and the morning were the first day. A, B, C. All right. It says, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven. What is the firmament? The firmament is the ozone layer, which is pretty much the division between the atmosphere in space and the atmosphere in the earth. All right. The same elements are there, but they're in a different the same elements are there, but they're in a different form. When you go out into space, like the brother Ratazawanya, is it? Salaka, brother, you got a hard name to remember. Saint Benji. He said invisible light. The atmosphere, every atmosphere that you have, whether it's space, whether it's earth, whether it's water, it's all the same elements, but it's just the makeup is different. When you go into outer space, the elements are spread out more. How do we know that? Because when Yahushua and the angels were creating everything, what they did was they illuminated what the scriptures call the waters, which are the elements. They caused those elements some of them to brighten up more than others. Because contrary to popular belief, the earth does not get its light from the sun and the moon. The earth has its own light. That's why you have a division between day and night. All right? So the earth has its own, or should I say the earth has its own day and night. But the moon and the sun and the moon were set up to distinguish between the night and the daytime. All right? So the elements out in space are separated more. The elements in the earth are more compact together, but not as close together. When you go into the waters and to the seas, those same elements are compacted even further for life in the heavens, in the sea to be able to breathe, because that is the way that they breathe those same elements that we breathe on the earth. All right? It says, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so, right? Because the earth already had its light, but the sun and the moon distinguish between day and night. All right. It says, and the powers made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night. He made also stars also. He made the stars also. So pretty much these were made as lights, the greater light and the lesser light. The greater light rules the day, right? And when we read 18th verse, and to rule over the day and over the night. So you had the lesser light, which is the moon, and the greater light, which is the sun. So the moon has its own light, even when it's in the new stage, but it's just dim. All right. And then as it progresses throughout the first week, the second week, so on and so forth, it starts to get brighter and brighter, for lack of better words. This is why in Ecclesiasticus 43, it says he made the moon also to serve in her season for a declaration of times, because the moon is what dictates the beginning of time. That's why it says, and the what? Matter of fact, let's get it. Let's see. Matter of fact, let's start at 3. And the power said, let there be light. And there was light. This is before the sun and the moon was created. So it took the certain elements and made them to become bright. And the power saw the light that it was good. Why? Because it was according to the plans of Yahweh. And the power divided the light from the darkness. Right. That's why you have darkness and light. And the powers called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And what? And the evening and the morning were the first day. Because the day starts at sundown. That's why we read here, it says that he made the moon also to serve in her season for a declaration of times, because the moon dictates time. And the sign of the world. It also, there's signs in the moon, to give us, clues as to where we at in prophecy and other things. That's why you had the blood moon. Old dirty bastard croaked around the blood moon. You got all this other chaos and madness going on around the same time. And there's a lot of satanic shit going on in these times now. Especially from around the so-called Halloween time, now coming into the so-called Thanksgiving, and then so-called Christmas and New Year's. Oh, Lord. From the moon is a sign of feasts. Yeah, because most of the feasts that we keep are kept during the new moon. Not all of them, but most of them. Some of the key ones, like the Passover, is kept during the full moon, which is the middle of the month, and the Feast of Tabernacles. Those are two of the main ones. It says, a light that decreaseth in her perfection. Why? Because when the moon is full in the middle of the month, which is the 14th day at evening, and you read about that in Leviticus 23, you read about the Passover, the 14th day at evening, which is the 15th day at evening, which is what? The middle of the month. And also with the Feast of Tabernacle starts at around the same time on the 7th month, the 14th day at evening, which is the 15th day. A light that decreaseth in her perfection, because once the moon is full, it starts to wane. It starts to decrease, because it's going back to what? It's going back to within the next 2 weeks to be reset again. And that's why it starts to wane, and you have the crescent moons, and then after a while that light starts to dim again until you could barely see anything there. Then what happens? Then it begins all over again, because the new moon or the new month is coming in. The month is called after her name. When you look at the word month and you look at the word moon, they are synonymous with each other. Let's see if we can get that. Let me keep this in case we need that. What's this? Just bear with me 1 second. Here we got the word month on etymology online, right? Etymology dictionary. Month, 1/12th part of a year, right? Because you have 12 months. One of the 12 parts into the calendar year. It's arbitrarily divided. Boom, boom, boom. We read on through here, which is related to Menom, moon. See, moon. All right. Originally, the month was the interval between one new moon and the next. And that's exactly what it is. That's why the new moons are very important, because they dictate when one month ends and another one begins. The word moon. Let's see what this says. Right here it says moon, month. That's what it means. All right? So going back, the month is called after her name, month, moon. Increasing wonderfully in her changing. Because when does a month begin? When the new moon comes in. That's the new cycle. And what happens when the new moon comes in? There's the light that is very bright in the middle of the month, which is the full moon. When the new moon comes in, there's barely any light there. And then what does it say? Because when it's full, it decreases. Middle of the month starts to wane to the beginning of the month. It decreases. When it gets to the new moon, increasing wonderfully in her changing, because the moon changes, like the scriptures say, a fool changes like the moon. This is why you have the different phases of the moon. First quarter, the full moon, third quarter, the new moon, so on and so forth. Then you have the different crescents, that show up throughout different days and number, whatever, all those other technical terms that Esau got. The month is called after her name, increasing wonderfully in her changing, because when the month comes in anew, that's when the light starts to, get brighter and brighter. It starts as a little sliver, and then it increases. By the first week, we have a crescent. It goes through the phases. By the time it gets to the second week, it's a full moon. And the full moon is usually the sign of feast. As we read in Psalms 81. And let's get that. Because this right here, this is a stumbling block to certain individuals. Even individuals that are supposed to be veterans in this. Over 30 years, and they still stumble they're stumbling at this scripture. And that pride won't let them, let it go, like Teddy P. Blow up the trumpet in the new moon and the time appointed on a solemn feast day. So if you read it just as it is, it's seeming like it's saying that this is all just speaking about the new moon. And then when you go to the word appointed, the word there is kasa'ah, which means full moon. And you be like, see, the new moon is the full moon. Because these guys really don't go into language except when it benefits them. Now, when you go to the different translations, right, you have the NLT, blow the ram's horn at new moon and again at full moon to call a festival. Okay? NIV, sound the ram's horn at new moon and when the moon is full on the day of our festival. Right, so it's 2 times, during the new moon and during the full moon. New moon is the beginning of the month. Full moon is the middle of the month. And these were, top times when the ram's horn would be blown. Because the ram's horn would be blown for what purpose? To gather the children of Israel. And different ways that it was blown would give you different ways that the trumpet was blown. You would either call up the leaders, or you would call the whole congregation, depending on how the trumpet was blown. And sometimes it was blown and then there was an alarm blown with it, and certain amount of jakes would get ready for war, for battle. This is why the Apostle Paul said that the trumpet give an uncertain sound. So Numbers 10 and 10, it says, also in the day of your gladness and in your solemn days, in the beginning of your months, which is what? The new moon, which I'm not sure if this is going to say, in the beginning of your months. Now check this out. What's this? What's this? Let me just get the, let's read the judgment. Let's get that. Let's get this. And let's get that. All right, now, I want to go to Psalms 83 again, which I did have it already, right? Yeah, you know what? Let me X out of that. Let's go back here. Let's go to Psalms 83. Let's go to interlinear. And let's go to the word new moon. What is the Hebrew word for new moon? Chadash. Chadash. Which pretty much means, see, right there it says renew, repair. It went through a cycle. Now it's time to renew. It's the same moon. It's not a brand new moon. Every time it goes through the phase, all right, the critters in space done ate the cheese moon, so now it's time to create a new one. Every month, just remember, keep that factory, that assembly line going, because we got to keep those new moons coming up. Every month, you got to make a new moon. That's 12 moons, a month. We ain't gonna slack. We need the manpower. No, it refreshes. It comes back again. So it says what? The new moon, monthly, the first day of the month, because the moon dictates time. It dictates the beginning of the month, which the beginning of the month is the first day. Then you have what? The first week. Then you have the second week, the third week. Then you have what? Another month that comes later. All right. Then it says here the first day of the month, the lunar month. Now, when we go back here to in the beginning of your months, when you look up the word months, you have what? Lo and behold, the word chadash again, which is new moon, month, monthly. All right. So it's the same thing. So you will blow up the trumpet, right? It says also in the day of gladness and in your solemn days and in the beginning of your months, you shall blow with the trumpets over your burnt offerings and over the sacrifice of your peace offerings, that they may be to you for a memorial before the Most High, and I am the Lord your power. All right. So with that being said, let's see what else we got. So we got that. So let's go back here to Ecclesiasticus 43:8. The month is called after her name, meaning what? After the moon. The moon dictates time. We read that it was for times and seasons and days and years, increasing wonderfully, and they're changing, because when the moon is when the moon is new, there's barely any light. It's light, but it's very, very dim. Then from that point, from the new moon, that's when it starts to increase in light. That's how you know how to keep time without having a calendar, by observing the moon, being an instrument of the armies above, shining in the firmament of heaven. So the new moon is not the full moon. The new moon is the beginning of the month. The full moon is the middle of the month. Okay? New moon, beginning of the month. Full moon, middle of the month. New moon, beginning of the month. Full moon, middle of the month. Now you may say, well, why is it that right here it says November and it says the 23rd here for the new moon? That's because Esau's time is off. Esau does not dictate his time by the moon. He dictates his time by the Julian calendar / Gregorian calendar. All right. That's why sometimes you might look at a calendar, Esau's calendar, and you might have 2 new moons in 1 month, because their time is off. They have 31 days in certain months. You have 28 days in others. When the appropriate time is like 29, a little more than 29 and a half days, which shows you that it's a 30-day cycle, just almost a 30-day cycle. From 1 month to the next, 29.5 something. All right. So last thing we got on the plate is the 13th Amendment. Now, I'm trying to remember. I believe it was the last video Elder Apostle Tar did. I forgot what it was called. Let's see. Forgot what it was called. But he was speaking on this. And like I said, I can't really remember exactly what it was called. You know, it's so many videos go up, so many titles. Okay, just because you're an Israelite doesn't mean you're written in the book of life. And in there, I believe that was a video, he actually mentioned the 13th Amendment, and he kind of started going into it. And a thought came in my mind. So, being the spirit, I just wanted to go and look up some more info on it. So we have here the 13th Amendment. When was the 13th Amendment first introduced? It began on December 14th, 1863, when House Republican James Ashley of Ohio introduced an amendment to ban slavery throughout the United States. So now, notice that all of these provisions, all of these laws, matter of fact, let's get that real quick. Isaiah 10. Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees and that write grievousness which they have prescribed. Right? These are grievousness which they have prescribed. And notice that this is around the same time when something else is going on. What was going on around this time when they were trying to get the 13th Amendment passed? Well, you had something called the Emancipation Proclamation, in which they were so-called freeing the slaves, right? Let's go down here. It says, so it was introduced December 14th, 1863. How did the 13th Amendment become a law? The amendment was passed by the Senate on April 8th, 1864. By the House of Representatives on January 31, 1865, and ratified by the required 27 of the then 36 states on December 6, 1865. So it was spoken of in 1863, and it was ratified in 1865. Now, when we deal with the Emancipation Proclamation on September 22, 1862, President Abraham Lincoln issued a preliminary Emancipation Proclamation, which Emancipation Proclamation does not mean freedom. They proclaimed emancipation, when you look it up, is the exchange of something from one hand to another. We go to the Etam online. Let's see if they break it down right. Emancipation is setting free. Nope. Latin emancipatio, from action, past participle. Emancipate. Emancipate. Let's see what they have for emancipate. Set free. Nope. Put a son in paternal authority. Declare someone free. Give up one's authority over. Right. This is closer. Give up one's authority over. In other words, you're setting something free, so-called, because it's leaving from there and going to another plantation, whether it's called a plantation or not. And that's all the word emancipation is when you break it down. To transfer from one hand to another. Hence the word man, manos. Roman law, the freeing of a son or wife, Simulation, X out, emancipare, deliver, transfer or sell, from mancipum, ownership, from manos, hand. See, so what you're doing is you're taking from one hand and putting it into another hand. Compare it to take. Hand, take. So you're taking it and you're pretty much just giving it to someone else. Because when the so-called slaves were free, they went from the southern plantations to the northern plantations. And it seemed like they were doing good because they were getting, so-called paid for what they were doing. So it seemed like a good deal, but it wasn't, because pretty much you just went from the hand of certain slaves to the hands of other slaves. That's all it is. An emancipation. So that was established. It said on September 22, 1862, President Abraham Lincoln issued a preliminary Emancipation Proclamation, which declared that as of January 1st, 1863, notice this is around the same time when they're putting into law the 13th Amendment, all enslaved people in the states currently engaged in rebellion against the Union shall be thenceforward and forever free. So you can be free from the southern slave masters, and you're going to come up to the north. Now, what I found interesting here, the Emancipation Proclamation was issued on January 1st, 1863, during the midst of the Civil War. It didn't take complete effect until June 19th, 1865. That's where they have something called Juneteenth, 1865. And the 13th Amendment was actually ratified December 6, 1865, the same year. And when we go into the 13th Amendment itself, let's see if we could pull up See, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. And that's pretty much what happened. They started charging Jake with crimes so that they can have a record, so that they can be used as slaves, so that they can work without being paid. So it was a ruse. There's an actual documentary called let's see, 13th film. And they go into the whole 13th Amendment and how they pretty much used that. That was like an escape clause to put Jake into captivity. They left so-called slavery on the plantation to go into slavery through these different prison systems. And prison is a big money-making racket. This is why, as Elder Apostle Gabar went into dealing with the whole direction of hip-hop back in the late 80s into the early 90s, it was going in the direction of making that so-called gangster music to influence these younger generation Israelites out here to commit crimes so that they can fill in or fill up those different prison systems, because it was a money-making racket. You see? So there's a lot of fuckery, going on behind this whole thing. So if you haven't seen this movie or this documentary, 13th, which came out 2016, I think it's a good idea to go watch this, because it breaks it down so you can get a better understanding of what the 13th Amendment is all about. All right? Let's go real quick to Revelation 13 and 11. Now, this is the Roman Empire, which was the beast that fell or that was wounded. There was a period of 1,000 years where Jake was ruling. Esau was not. They call it the Byzantine Empire. They call it the Holy Roman Empire. They call it the Dark Ages. And then around the early about 1325, mid 1300s into the 1400s, you had something called the Renaissance period. And this is when Esau started getting back into power. All right? And this America, Babylon the Great, is a product of Renaissance, of the Renaissance period and that Renaissance Christianity. And they use that Renaissance Christianity as a form of deception, as a form of slavery, as a form of control over the minds of the people. They took our own book and used it against us. And that's why you have a lot of Jake out there that are jaded by the Bible because of the narrative that's been painted today of white supremacy in the scriptures, in the Bible. And that picture of a so-called white God and a so-called white Messiah that has been pushed and ingrained and etched and seared into the minds of the people of the world. But when you read the Bible, it says something totally different. It says that the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? So if they didn't cover up, how did they cover up the faces of the judges? By putting their faces up. So who did that? When you analyze, the planet and you analyze the evidence, no other people on the planet has ever done that except for the so-called white man, the Edomites. They put up their face instead of the Most High God, instead of the Heavenly Father Son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus, Yahushai. His name is Yahushai in the Hebrew. The angels, the Israelites, so on and so forth. So here in Revelation 13:11, after that Renaissance period, which we're still in it pretty much, that same beast that had a wound was healed of its wound. And it came back into power. And what it did was what? Deceive the world. And beside all the other stuff that we spoke about, one of the deceptions is coming through their legislation. Revelation 13:11. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, which is the same beast that was wounded. And he had two horns like a lamb, because they appear to be benevolent. Two horns like a lamb. A lamb is known to be meek, docile. And the two horns is a representation of the two-party system that they have, what they call bipartisan. And he spake as a dragon. So how is he speaking as a dragon? By his legislation. You have the word dragon that goes back to the Greek word drakon, which is where you get Draco. A dragon, a serpent, a great serpent, a name for Satan, in the sense of this is really the name for Esau and his whole system, not the spiritual demon Satan. Even though that's their daddy and they work for him, this is really a name for the Edomite system, the dragon. And Draco goes back to an Athenian lawgiver known as Draco, who was known for his harsh penalties or his harsh convictions, even for the most minute crimes. You would get the book thrown at you. You would get the 3rd degree thrown at you. So this legislation that they're passing, this is how they becoming a dragon. This is how they trapping the people. Through the 13th and the 14th Amendment. 14th Amendment, that's where you get your contracts from, pretty much. Because if you notice, everything in the system is based off of contracts. People think they're free because they don't have chains around them, but they have chains around their mind through these, what they call adhesion contracts. Adhesion just means glue. These glue contracts that through your signature have given the jurisdiction over to this beast, this dragon. This is why you have birth certificates, social security numbers, cards, driver's license. Everything you do, you have to get a license, a permit, or something. When you buy a car, you're buying it with your hard-earned money, but you just have what? A certificate. You have no ownership of that car, really. It's just a certificate. It says, and he, meaning this dragon, exercises all the power of the first beast before him. Why? Because this is what they've done. They've taken that same energy from the ancient Roman Empire and just incorporated it into the same system, along with other things, and caused the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, which is the Roman Empire. And this is why when you look at the governmental buildings, they're all fashioned in the Roman columns and Roman buildings of the past, whose deadly wound was what? Healed. How was his deadly wound healed? Through the Renaissance period. And it's all grown up. It's all growed up now. It's all grows up. He's all growed up in America. America is the epitome of that beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And look at the monster it's become. All right. So pretty much that's been it. We dealt with Job. Job is an Israelite. We dealt with the new moon. The new moon is the beginning of the month where the light is very dim. It's not the full moon. The full moon is the middle of the month. It has nothing to do with the new moon except for it's 2 weeks after the new moon. And we dealt with the 13th Amendment and the Emancipation Proclamation, which was the exchange of slaves from one hand to another. So with that, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. So the next time I say, Shalom.